Here we go. Hey, everybody, we back for another one with James Choppin. Is that right, James? Pronouncing that
James
right?
Choppin, love my pup, my British supply. You got it. Yes.
Okay. All right, we're going to get right to it. Hey, James, can you
Good.
tell the audience a little bit about yourself, what you do?
Well, I'm a self-proclaimed idiot. I was smart when I was young, but I got stupider as I got older, and I'm pretty old, so I'm pretty stupid. So anything you get from me, you take with a grain of salt, right? But really, I've been mucking around with dogs for a long time. So Tammy, my wife, and I don't know what we're in this for, 35 years maybe, mucking around with dogs. Started off just with, having pets and then breeding some Labradors for fun. And, then all of a sudden my wife saw French Bulldogs about 20 years ago and she just fell in love with the breed. And, she got her first French Bulldog and it's all been just lots of fun since then. I love the breed. Now you're Cane Corsos, aren't you?
Yeah, but I used to breed French bulldogs, and I used to follow your channel,
Okay.
and
So
one
why
of
did,
the
why did you go to Cane Corsos? I'm taking command of the interview here. I
well,
need to shut
well,
up.
yeah, well, we started with Corsos, and then we wanted to try out Frenchies. Yeah, come
Oh,
on
well, there
in.
you go.
yeah.
Hey,
Hi,
That's my
Miss
wife, Tammy.
Tammy. Yes,
So
yes, yes.
hey.
some of your people see her on videos too.
Oh yeah, oh
So when
yeah.
we do our Q&A session, Tammy's in there.
I'm Pinky. He's the
Oh
brain.
yeah. Y'all got the best car rides ever. I love
Well,
how y'all
we
just
have
come
fun
up with
with it.
those
Yeah, we have fun with
those.
this. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right, now
yeah,
get out of here. You're taking away. You're taking away my moji.
Okay.
yeah. So
But
yeah,
yeah,
but
so
anyway, yeah,
French
we
bulldogs
start
for a long time.
right.
We now manufacture products to help people have easier time with litters. Incubators and whelping systems, and then we're here to help people. It's all about helping
Right.
people. Yep.
Hey James, what if you could give a new breeder any advice right out the gate? What would that be?
Well, I think the first thing is you need to make this something you're passionate about. And so, how do you become passionate about this? I think get into the breed that you enjoy. There's going to be work involved in this. There's going to be heartache. There's going to be selling puppies and dealing with customers, all that kind of thing. But start off with getting a breed that you like, right? So that's the first thing. And then don't go overboard. Start with the one dog. Just make sure it's a good fit for you. I think one of the things that people need to remember is you really have a commitment of your time when you do this. If you're going to have puppies and you've got a 9 to 5 job, maybe the first week, someone's got to be there to check on puppies every few hours. And if you're at work and gone to work for 10 hours, that's a little bit difficult to do. So you've got to think about what your commitment is in terms of time, because you've got a responsibility towards your dogs at that point. So I would say, number one, get a breed that you like. Number two, make sure that you've got the time that you can devote to doing this. Number three is don't start off betting the farm. Make sure it's a good fit for you first. Make sure this is something that you want to do, can do, and enjoy doing.
How
What do you
how
think?
it
What do you think? You like that answer, or you think that,
yeah.
that am I missing stuff?
Yeah, no, I think it's an excellent answer. I was going to ask you about confirmation. How important do you think that is to new breeders to
Number
know?
one.
Number
So,
one.
so when we come into the breed that you're going to get, then the next question is, what should you get in terms of breed? So my advice on breed is, if you look, those of us who are breeding, there is a financial aspect to this, right? If it was just a hobby, that's a different thing. But when we say breeding, it can still be hobby breeding, but there's obviously money involved in this, right? So I would say, number one, find the breed that you like. Number two, do some research and find out what the value of those puppies is and make sure that it fits in with what your financial goals in the short term are. And then buy the best structure you can get. And if you don't know what the structure is, go to the AKC or some affiliated club and look and see what people are talking about in terms of what that dog should look like. Because hell, I mean, I can tell you this: when I first started out, I got colors that weren't the best of colors, and I got dogs that weren't the best of structure. And once you've got a dog, you've got a commitment to that dog that might last for the next 6, 8, 10 years. And so you want to start. It's like marrying your wife, right, or your husband.
Mhm.
Make sure that it's going to be a good fit because you're going to be there for some time. So start off. I mean, it's not easy because you don't know everything. I don't know everything now after doing it for 30 plus years. But you mentioned structure. And you're saying that because you know, like I do, that structure is so important. You can breed color in fairly easily. Structure, much harder to fix structure. You can fix it, but it's a harder thing to do.
Yeah. So you do a lot of pretty much your channel is just like an education center. And I know you know a lot about medications and different things like that. What are just a few, I know we kind of short on time, but a few things that a breeder or a family that's kind of deep into dogs, what should be in their medicine cabinet? What are some must-haves for your medicine cabinets for the breeders?
Well, so, some of the things that you need to have, you've got to get a prescription for, so you've got your vet involved. So, I'm an advocate of vets. I believe that there's times when vets are, very useful to you, especially if you've got a problem that you can't fix yourself. But you can do so much of this yourself, and you should. And so what does it take? It takes a cabinet with the right stuff. We'll talk about that here in a second. But it also is about your learning about this through things like my channel, Googling it, talking to other people, so that you can, when you diagnose a dog, you've got a day or 2 or 3 before you go to your vet. You know so much more about this than your vet does. When you go to your vet's got 5 minutes to evaluate what's going to happen and do a diagnosis and treat the dog. So the first thing is good diagnosis is what you need. So what should you have in your cabinet? I think that there's some things that you should have for emergency situations. For instance, one thing that's very inexpensive to have is charcoal. So you can buy this at your local pharmacy, your local drug place. You've got a dog that's had a poison. Probably one of the best things you can do is to get some activated charcoal, and it's dirt cheap. So activated charcoal. Then as long as you use this correctly, there are antibiotics that you can go get that are what would be called off-label use. So you cannot go buy antibiotics without a prescription unless it's for fish. So you can buy fish mox for your aquarium. Guess what? That's amoxicillin. You can buy fish flex. That's sulfaxin. You can buy fish pen. That's penicillin. When you get it, it's a tablet, and you know that it came down exactly the same line as the FDA product that you and I would take. And in fact, now, remember, I'm not a vet, and neither am I a doctor, but if I have something where I think that it makes sense to take some antibiotics for me, I take the one for fish because I can get it. I already got it in my cabinet. So I'd have some. Amoxicillin is probably the most universally good antibiotic to have. Remember, when you use that, it's not something that you just casually give. You need to diagnose. I don't like the idea about just giving antibiotics because we don't know what's going on.
Right.
But that's fine if it's last resort. But the point here is make sure you're doing it for at least 7 to 10 days when you do a course of it. So amoxicillin, that's the next one. Worming medications. So I use fenbendazole or Safeguard. I use that for all my dogs on a routine basis. And I use it for my pregnant mums a week before and a week after birth. And I give it to my puppies starting at 6 weeks. It's goat wormer, fenbendazole, Safeguard. Dirt cheap, you should have that. And you should just, I would go buy that when you can find it at a good price. Because it's getting more expensive. You can buy a quart of it for probably $100, and that'll do a lot of dogs for a long time. So that's the next thing. I would get some pyrantel Payomate. I buy it on Amazon. It's the same thing as Nemex 2 that you use for puppies for the first couple of wormies at 2 and 4 weeks. But it's so much less expensive. If you buy Nemex 2, you buy it for your vet. A pint of it costs you $100.
Yeah.
You can buy a quart of it on Amazon for like $30. Hell of a lot less expensive. So that's something else I'd have. I think the wormer, the general purpose antibiotic, and the charcoal in case you have a poisoning, those are the things that I start off with. I mean, there's lots of other things you can put in there. Ear medications for mites or yeast, eye drops in case you have an eye infection. Those are things that I'd probably... The teramycin is an eye drop you can buy on Amazon for eye infections. That's a fairly common thing to happen in puppies. There's 2 different kinds of... We use an ear wash, and we use a product, I think it's called Mitoban, maybe for mites in the ears. You may use that. A couple.
No, I haven't used it.
Okay, well, there's these things you can buy on Amazon. So
okay, cool.
Right,
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So you add to the list. What are you thinking?
Pretty much my medicine cabinet was based off your channel. So I probably got that and probably some stuff I ain't supposed to have.
Yeah, well, there you go. Well, that's another point
Yeah.
here. By the way, something else that I have in this, I think you should absolutely have is folic
Uh-huh.
acid. If you're going to do breeding, you should be giving your mother folic acid from the time she's AI'd until the time that she whelps. And you
Right.
want to get, I'm going to write on the board here, you should be getting 5 milligrams. That's folic acid. Folic acid. You want 5 milligrams. You will see lots of stuff where it says 800 micrograms, 800 mics. That is 0.8 of a gram. You think that's a lot. That's small. That's a lot. Other way around. That is
Right.
nothing. And that's what you'll find easily. That's what you want, 5 milligrams of folic acid. This helps stop birth defects like cleft palates. We give it to humans these days. We have been doing it
Right.
for quite some time because there's proof in the fact. It doesn't mean that it's going to fix all birth defects, but it means that it reduces the likelihood of you getting things like cleft palates. So that one needs to be in there as well. And then, like you said, the stuff that you shouldn't have, like, hey, something else that we have would be probiotics.
Mm-hmm.
Help help dogs that have got upset stomachs. A can of pumpkin, canned pumpkin, good for puppies that have got diarrhea as kind of a natural remedy to stiffen up their stool. That's another one I'd have in there. We have treats that have got CBD in them, they're called calming bites.
Okay.
They help dogs that are maybe having a little bit of anxiety. I've used that for dogs that have had slip discs. Give them a few of those, keep them in a crate for a couple of days and fix them doing that.
Right. Okay.
But what you're doing is you're letting them get into your stash, aren't you?
Yeah. I want to tell them too much, but yeah. So I got a litter on the ground right now.
Me too.
Could you briefly go into the just a little bit of the what we need to be doing with the new litter, like for the worming schedule, maybe the shot schedule, just for people to know in general?
Well, I think the first thing I'm going to say is if you're having a C-section, get your timing right for your C-section because you can muck the whole thing up by taking.
Well, let me cut you off for 1 second.
Yes.
Audience, you really need to go to his channel and watch his videos on C-sections, whelping, timing of the. It is so much knowledge. I mean, he's going to go into it here, but you got to go watch it.
Yeah, I'll go to here.
Yeah.
So you didn't ask me specifically about that, but I just want to bring that up because there are so many mistakes that are made by vets and by people who are new to breeding and experienced breeders where they get this wrong and they take puppies early, they've got slick faces, and puppies start dying after about 48 to 72 hours. It's a horrible situation to be in. It's completely avoidable. So the other thing about getting a C-section right is you can do this thing during the daytime, not in the dead of night, at an emergency clinic where it costs you 3 times as much with an inexperienced person doing it. So get that timing right. And if you're not sure about this, I've got lots of stuff on YouTube at Love My Pups to talk about things like don't lose puppies. But now we're talking about what we should be doing for these puppies in terms of medications and treatments. Right. So I think the next fundamental thing that you should always do is weigh puppies every day for at least the first 7 days of their life. And the reason for this is it gives you an idea. Well, it tells you really quickly if you've got one puppy that's having problems, it's not gaining that half an ounce or more a day. So that way you can step in and take action before this becomes a huge problem and you find a dead, lethargic or cold puppy. So weigh your puppies, expect them to all be gaining about half an ounce after day 2. And here's another rule of thumb that I kind of put together the other day. So I'm going to go over that for puppies' weights. Can I do that real quick?
Go ahead. Yes, sir.
So, I don't know if you need the board for this. Add the weight up of all your puppies. Let's say you've got 4 puppies and they weigh 8, 9, 10, and 11 ounces at birth, right? Add those 4 puppies together, which would come to, I think, what would it be? About 40. 38 maybe, right? Well, we're going to make it 40 because it makes my math easier.
All right.
We'll make this one a 9. I think that comes down. Make that one a 10. That'll make it right. Right. So the average weight of the lift is 40, right?
Mm-hmm.
Divide that by the number of puppies. It means your average weight of your puppies is 10 ounces. Okay? Mm-hmm. Multiply that by 0.6. And see if I'm going off the board. That equals 6 ounces. That is your danger point. That is the puppy that you've got to be that's a puppy that if it's a 6 ounce puppy and your average weight's 10 ounces, that's the puppy you need to pay attention to because even if it's gaining a little bit of weight, that puppy probably needs some attention. So be aware of, people ask me, well, how much do my puppies weigh? And it's like, I don't know. What have you got? Great Danes or Chihuahuas? They're obviously going to weigh different. Add them all up, average it out. You want to have the puppies at least 60% of the average weight. All right, so now we're off the scales. So next thing, worming. So we worm with pyrantel palate. That's the one that I said you can buy at Amazon. So that's pyrantel. If you just look for pyrantel, you'll find it. Or Nemex 2, same thing, much more expensive, Nemex 2. You're going to give that to your puppies at 2 and 4 weeks. After that, at 6 weeks and 8 and 10 and 12, every 2 weeks until they leave, you're going to be using Safeguard.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, the dosage of Safeguard is for 3 days. It's 1 milligram per 1 cc for every 5 pounds of body weight.
Gotcha.
And we do that with Mama a week before, actually 10 days before for 3 days and 7 days afterwards for 3 days for Mama to knock out parasites. Because all dogs, although they may be, I mean, I got a litter right now. Mum's in the house. I know she doesn't have any worms, but she actually does. Very small amounts of worms are in all dogs that their immune system keeps under control. This helps knock that out so she doesn't pass it on to the puppies that don't have a solid immune system yet in Mum's milk. So that's a good one to have too. Okay. Now, next one is shots. So you're going to do shots. This is one where different people have different ideas about when shots should be. The range varies by a week or two. The thing to understand about vaccinations is that it's a course of vaccinations. You cannot do them too early because they've got autoimmune from their mum, which will stop that from working. Mm-hmm. If you do them too late, maybe they get something like parvo or distemper or something that's horrific. And if you get them too close together, he's got this first one has got to wear off a little bit before you can give the next one. This is where the discussion goes in the back. Should it be 2 weeks between shots, 3 or 4 weeks between shots? So that's the range. If you make it too long, you've got to start the whole bloody thing again. So this is what we do. We give shots at 6, 9, and 12 weeks. That's what we do. Some vets are going to say 5, 8, and 10. But you can see that this is kind of an average kind of thing, but you need to give vaccinations. And if you think that you don't because your dogs aren't exposed to other dogs, all it takes is a fly that settled on some poop somewhere from a dog that had parvo to come into your house, and your dog then lands on their food and they eat it and get parvo. So vaccinate your dogs.
Okay, cool.
Now, next thing is, where should you buy the vaccinations? If you've got quite a few shots, let's say you've got 5 puppies, you're going to vaccinate them 3 times. You need 15 shots. You might as well go to someone like Allied Vet and buy a pack of 25 shots because it'll be a lot less expensive to go and do this at the vet. You can do all of this yourself, except for a rabies shot. That shot, you won't get a tag. You have to go to a vet to get a rabies tag. And in most places, it's local requirements that you do that. I mean, it's actually mandated. The state of Oklahoma, if you've got a dog that's over a certain age, it has to have a rabies shot.
Yeah, it's the same way here in Arkansas.
Okay.
And you said, what was that place? I do know about Revival.
Well, so there's a number of places. Revival, I like Revival.
Me too.
Revival. That's probably as good a place to go as any. Chewy's a place they've got medications. Chewy. Allied Vet. They're all pretty representative. I don't have a preference, particularly in one of these things. Your local Tractor Supply, garden center place, some of those have puppy shots that you can get. Mm-hmm. Remember that all shots have to be refrigerated. And if you don't refrigerate them, they're a lot of them are live vaccines. They've got to be refrigerated, which means that if you are getting them over the internet, they need to pay for 1 day shipping or 2 day shipping. With a ice box, they're going to charge you some extra money for that. If you buy this locally, go to your vet, you need an ice pack. Put it in a bag with ice packs, get it home, stick it in the fridge. And then it's got a shelf life that's measured in over a year.
Right.
So that's our vet. That's what we do as far as shots are concerned.
Okay.
We also give a couple of other medications to puppies. We give, so there's 2 things that are very common, coccidia and giardia. They're both gut parasites. Mm-hmm. And if you do this very much, I promise you're going to run into these 2 things. Yeah. So we start by giving a product that's actually an off-label use. It's Taroxazil, and I don't think I can even spell it. I'll try. Mm-hmm. Terzerl. That might be something like that. That you can buy that at horserace.com. That's where I bought it. Horse. I got whore. That's not right, is it?
Yeah, no, that's not.
Horserace.com. You can buy that. It's fairly expensive. It's like $120 for a 1-pint bottle, but it's a great stopping coccidia from even getting started. So we don't test for it. We just give it. So
when do you give it?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks every couple of weeks. And then if you end up getting, which will probably stop you from getting coccidia, but if you get coccidia, then the right treatment for that is, I believe it's Albon.
Albon, yeah.
The Albon's the right treatment. And I think you may have to get that from your vet. So that's the coccidia. The other one is Giardia. And Giardia is a little bitty protozoa that's hard to detect. Both of these situations, you've got a dog that's got diarrhea, probably got some blood in it. Specifically with the Giardia, it has kind of a mucousy consistency and a kind of a metallic smell to it. You can go to your vet and they can do what's called a fecal flotation. They take some poop, put it in some fluid. It's actually Epsom salts, and the reason for that is it makes the eggs or the protozoa flow up to the top of the little container. They put a microscope slide on top of it, so it's wet. Then they leave that for an hour or two, take the slide, stain it, look under a microscope, and they can see coccidia is fairly easy to see. Giardia, not so easy to see. And this is what we do. We go get what's called a snap test, and we actually sell those at My Breeder Supply. It's a little cassette. You take a little bit of poop, put it in the window. 5 minutes later, 2 lines, you've got it. 1 line, you don't. Okay. So it's so much more accurate than doing a flotation, and I think it's like $75 for 5 tests, and they keep for a couple of years. So I would it's pretty common. If you don't do that, then metronidazole is the antibody you give for that. And guess what? You can buy that for fish, and for fish, it's called Fishzole. So you can buy that. If you want to get metronidazole, you have to have a script for it from the vet with a vet visit. And so you can avoid this by getting a Giardia snap test to diagnose correctly that you have, in fact, got Giardia present, and then go get Fishzole and start treating it. And that's the way to go. That's my way to go at it. And I think that's pretty safe. Remember, metronidazole is a fairly harsh antibiotic. You do not want to be giving this just willy-nilly because somebody said, well, you should give metronidazole when they're 6 weeks old. I wouldn't do that. I would want evidence that the dog actually has Giardia before I started giving 8 to 10 day course of that medication.
Understood. So you teach a lot about taking care of your own dogs, but I noticed too you got great relationship with the vet or vets you use.
I do.
How many vets? I know with French bulldogs you might need an emergency C-section.
There you go.
Well, how many vets do you work with, or do you suggest?
That's how many I've got.
5 vets.
That's a lot of vets. But there again, we've got quite a few stud dogs, and so we need vets every now and then. But here's the argument. We just had a litter born this Memorial Day. What was it? Labor Day? What was last Monday?
Labor Day.
Labor Day. Who's open on Labor Day?
Nobody.
So Tammy got on the phone because we knew that it was going to be that weekend. We'd already got our window of opportunity. We knew it was going to be sometime probably Sunday, Monday that she was going to be going into labor. And so we knew we had something lined up. So thank God we got 5 vets, because what you're going to find here is the vet that we chose is the only one that was available. He'd come in for us. And in fact, he's such a good vet. He actually texted me twice a day, 48 hours before due date, to find out what I've been doing with testing, just making sure he was available for me. So that's a good dude right there. But the point here is and by the way, I did a whole video on that C-section that I'm going to post here in the next few days. But he said to me, and I said, hey, is it okay if I video this thing? He said, yeah, I love people to learn about this stuff. So we got the camera, we got the phone out, we shot the whole thing. But he said at the end of it, and it's not on the video, but he said at the end of it, but I want people to realize that I'm not here for somebody to call me up for a C-section at 3 o'clock in the morning if I don't know them. So the point here is he wants a relationship with you.
That's right.
And if you don't have a vet that has a relationship with you, number one, you're probably not going to get the best care that you could. And number two, you probably aren't going to find anybody when you're in trouble and you're going to be going to the emergency room and you're going to be paying In New York, $6,000 for a C-section.
Oh yeah.
Versus
Yeah.
I paid 800 the other day, and I've So
Yeah.
So how many vets do you need? You need at least one good vet to start with your first dog. And when you start breeding, I think that some kind of relationship with more than one is a good idea, so you don't get into the situation where, you know, it's a weekend. Remember, if you're doing C-sections or if your dog's sick, 2/3 of 2/7 or 1/3 of everything you do is going to fall on the weekend. And most vets aren't available on the weekend. And if they are, it's only till noon. So to have a phone number of a vet you can call if you really get in trouble, it's a good thing.
That's right. That's right. All right, man. I got you for 5 more minutes, and I want to talk about one more thing.
Okay.
Because I think you're just such a value to the dog community.
And it's all free.
It
It's
is.
going to be great value when it's free. Yeah,
So I see.
anyway.
I saw 2 things. Well, we all know you got the breeder supply, and I want you to tell my listeners about the breeder supply. And I think I saw something about you doing a breeders teaching program.
That's what that
Oh,
is.
there we go. There it is. Breeder101.com.
Breeder101.com. I've got videos in there. They're not free, but they cost typically less than a vet visit, and they are everything put. For instance, there's one of them on selling puppies. Mm-hmm. It's maybe 20 hours worth of videos that are 10 to 20 minutes a segment. You don't have to download anything. It's all streamed. And I put in there everything that I have learned over the years about all the mistakes I've made and successes I've had on selling puppies. This is an example. That's right there. Right. Mm-hmm. So, but I kind of sidetracked you there because you were going to ask me a question, and I've got into being trying to sell myself, and that's not the purpose.
Well, it's okay. You was going into it. I was just asking you about the breeder supply. I just want you to go in on that and Breeders 101. That's all I wanted.
All right, so Breeders 101, I put in courses up there. I think there's 6 courses up there at the moment, and I think everything comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee on the courses. If it's crap, you don't like it, you get your money back, no questions asked. I have I think I've got one person who's returned a course in the last 9 months I've been doing this. But again, if you don't like it, it's risk-free. All right, so that's enough of that. Let's talk about my breeder supply. My breeder supply came about because I had some specific problems myself many years ago with stud dogs as far as things like getting semen successfully to customers. And so I invented a product. It's a patented product called can't even stupid name of it. Called Shipmate.
Shipmate, yeah.
Shipmate. So it's an electronically controlled shipping flask to shipping semen. So that was the beginning of coming up with products. So the next problem I had was I needed an incubator for my puppies, and so I started mucking around building incubators. I mean, I'm going back like 12, 15 years ago. And by the way, I'm an engineer and I'm a geek, right? So that's my background, and I love dogs. So I have built a number of incubators over the years, and now we've got a really great product at My Breeder Supply, which is basically a portable incubator that could be used 24/7 in your house or in your car. It runs off 120, 240, or 12 volts. You can stick it in your car. It's very, very safe. There's no moving parts. That's another example of something that I think is probably one of our stellar products that nobody else has got something quite like that. And then the other thing is our heated whelping system. So we sell a lot of stuff, by the way, on My Breeder Supply. Things that you need for breeding: AI rods, progesterone machines, progesterone tests, all of those things, the kind of run-of-the-mill stuff that you're going to find in other places, you're going to find that on My Breeder Supply. But we are dedicated towards getting dogs bred successfully and having healthy puppies. And everything that's on there is everything that we use. If we don't use it, it's not on our side. I all the time have people asking me about, selling their product. And what I always say is, send me the product and I'll take a look at it. And if we use it, great. We'll probably put it up on site. But if we're not, if we've got some competing product we feel is better, we're going to show you the product that we know works. Right. So do I have another couple of minutes still?
Yeah, you're good. Yeah.
Okay. So I think the next thing, this is something that it's such a time saver and such a great thing to stop you having desires for puppy is our heated whelping system.
Ooh,
so
it's the best. That
isn't
God.
It? So yes.
Yeah,
so
I bought the heat tech.
Yes. So here's the problem. This is what most people do with French bulldogs and other bulldogs. They're really worried about their puppies getting squashed or puppies getting stepped on. So the immediate solution, the aha moment on that is, I'm just going to take babies away from mum and put them with mum for 10 minutes every 3 hours to feed, and I'm taking away again. That way she can't suffocate them. That way she can't squash them. That way they can't get cold. And I mean, it sounds reasonable. So then other people who don't like that solution, what they do is they know that puppies will get cold. So they construct some kind of whelping system that has a pig rail around it. The pig rail is fundamental. It's basically a rail around the inside of whatever whelping system you have, and the puppies can get underneath that if they get bumped up against the wall by mum. So they're underneath this. They don't get bumped up against the wall because mum hits this first. Fundamental, every system you have that. So the next thing that people do is they put one or two things, either a heat lamp from above, and guess what? They get that heat lamp from above. That's cooking mum. She's the closest to it. She's got a fur coat on, and she's saying, "WTF, dude? What are you doing? I hate this." So she's stepping up and down, trying to get comfortable. Might step on a puppy. Mm-hmm. The next thing is, if you don't like that solution, is you put a heat pad under the entire bottom of the whelping cage. Better than a heat lamp because it's not closest to mum. At least it's closer to the puppies. But the problem is, still heating mum up if you don't like it. So what do? This is the floor of your whelping system. What we do, and then you've already got a pig rail in here, so we'll just there's a pig rail, I'll draw a dotted line. Here's your pig rail. We've already got that in there as well because we know we have to do that, right? We don't want to heat this area up here because that's where mum is. She hates the extra heat. So we build you a heat tape that goes on the underneath of this floor tray, whatever you want to use for your bottom of your whelping system. And it goes off to a thermostat where we can set the temperature to whatever we think is suitable, which turns out to be about 40 degrees centigrade or 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Now what happens? Puppies are nursing on mum. Mum's not separated from her babies. You're asleep at night. You're not going in there every 3 hours to do this, which is fundamentally important about this. Mm-hmm. When puppies are not nursing on mum, they're on this relatively cool floor, which they really don't like. They start just ambling around and they bump into the heated area. Guess where that is? It's right underneath the pig rail.
Under the rail, yep.
So you'll find all the puppies lined up underneath this pig rail most of the time. They're safe. Mum's a happy mum because she's not getting overheated. She's not anxious because you haven't taken her away from her babies. We wouldn't do this with humans. Mm-hmm. And just like humans, they want to bond with their babies. Mothers have a natural connection and don't mess it up by removing that and breaking it. Yeah. So mum's there 24/7. We leave our babies in that environment for the first 3 weeks, and we don't hardly do crap. We just I have to force her out of the cage because she wants to be with the babies. Get her to go outside, pee and poop. Man, she barrels right back in. She's back in with the babies. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's it. Makes your life so much easier. And it's not that expensive. So, for a couple $100, you can buy this system. We can fit it for any crate that you've got. And the important thing is it's much safer for the babies. It's much more comfortable for mum. And you get your life back as well. You're not getting up every 3 hours. And the next thing you got is the divorce on your hands because you're just a cranky bugger at the end of all this.
Right.
So, but you're using it, right?
Yeah, I have used it when I was breeding French bulldogs, and that was a thing. Actually, I had 2 litters going on at once. I had a Corso litter and a French bulldog litter. My Corso litter, they in a regulated temperature room with one of those mini splits, so they're a little easier. But yeah, to be able to get to sleep watching those babies with those French bulldogs crawl under that rail every time and not having to stress mom out when you take them out, is a lifesaver. And another thing,
I have a wireless camera in mine as well.
That's
and that
right.
way,
Yeah.
I leave the door open the first 3 or 4 days. If I hear any crying going on, I can just quickly pull my phone, look on the camera, just make sure that, because puppies will cry just because they're being licked, bottoms are being licked or whatever, but just to make sure there's nothing fundamentally wrong going on. So
and then that incubator was major for me too, because I can go to the vet, do the C-section, get it warmed up, and get them in there and come on. So those were 2 major pieces.
And if you have a sick puppy,
Yeah.
If you don't have an incubator, you're screwed. Sick puppies that are small, puppies that have got cold, fundamentally the first thing you have to do always is get these puppies warmed up. Stick your finger in the mouth, needs to feel wet, moist, and warm. And if it's not, it needs to be an incubator till it is at least warm. So fundamental piece of equipment. And
Right.
I've got a litter on the ground now. They were born Labor Day, so they're 6 days old. I've got an incubator in there that's turned on, and it's going to be turned on for the next 2 weeks. And it might use up 5 cents of electricity in a month, but it's there. It's my things go wrong device. Puppies go into that. Yeah.
Right. Hey, James, I appreciate your time. I'll be sure to put in those links when you talked about the breeders,
Sure, great.
supply and all that good stuff. So, man, thank you. Y'all go to Love My Pups. I'm telling you, this man has saved me a lot of time, money, and gave me a lot of education down through the years. So,
Well, I
thank you,
appreciate that.
James.
Thanks for the shout.